1955, the calm that hid the storm. By 1955, America exhaled. The hysteria of McCarthyism had burned itself out. The guns in Korea were silent. The White House was occupied by a president who neither shouted nor threatened. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the quiet general who promised steadiness in an unsteady world. For the first time since World War II, Americans felt something close to normal again. But history is cruel that way. Because 1955 was not a peaceful year, it was a pause, a moment where prosperity, optimism, and confidence masked pressures building beneath the surface. Racial injustice, nuclear terror, Cold War rivalry, and a youth culture about to rebel. 1955 was a year America believed it had figured things out just before discovering how wrong that belief was. Eisenhower governed in 1955 with a philosophy rooted in balance. He believed government should be strong but limited, engaged but not intrusive. He trusted experts. He avoided drama. He viewed leadership as stewardship rather than spectacle. This approach reassured the public. Approval ratings remained high. The nation felt adult again after years of wartime mobilization and ideological panic. Yet Eisenhower's calm hid the reality that the Cold War was becoming permanent. By 1955, atomic weapons were no longer shocking. They were expected. Hydrogen bombs had replaced atomic bombs in military planning. Civil defense drills became part of childhood. Fallout shelters entered public conversation. The terrifying idea wasn't that nuclear war might happen. It was people were learning to live as if it might. Eisenhower pushed a strategy of deterrence, peace maintained by the certainty of destruction. It was logical, it was chilling, and it would define global politics for decades. In July 1955, Eisenhower met Soviet leaders at the Geneva summit. For the first time in years, there was talk, real talk, of coexistence rather than confrontation. Eisenhower proposed the Open Skies Plan, allowing mutual aerial surveillance to prevent surprise attacks. The Soviets rejected it, but the gesture mattered. The summit created what journalists called the spirit of Geneva, a belief that diplomacy might soften the Cold War. It didn't end rivalry, but it slowed the pace of escalation temporarily. In July 1955, diplomats were talking abroad. Something far more revolutionary happened at home. On December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a city bus. It was a small act and a seismic one. Her arrest ignited the Montgomery bus boycott led by a young pastor named Martin Luther King Jr. For over a year, Black citizens walked instead of riding segregated buses. 1955 marked the true beginning of the modern civil rights movement. It was not a loud rebellion, it was disciplined resistance, and it would expose the moral contradictions at the heart of the Cold War America, preaching freedom abroad while denying it at home. Eisenhower personally disliked segregation, but he distrusted rapid social change and feared federal overreach. In 1955, he avoided direct involvement in civil rights enforcement, a decision history continues to debate. Yet the groundwork was laid. The courts were active, the public conscience was stirring, and the movement would soon force Eisenhower to act, whether he wanted to or not. 1955 made one thing clear: civil rights could no longer be postponed. While politicians spoke cautiously, America's youth shouted. In 1955, Elvis Presley exploded onto the national scene. His music wasn't just new, it was threatening. Boy, I lived through that. I was a teenager. It was a fun time. Parents panicked, clergy warned, politicians frowned. Rock and roll wasn't just music, it was rebellion wrapped in rhythm. For the first time, teenagers emerged as a distinct cultural force, and they would not quietly inherit their parents' America. Boy, that's for sure. Economically, 1955 was strong. Suburban expansion served. Car ownership exploded. Television advertising reshaped consumption. The American dream felt achievable for some, but prosperity was uneven. Urban decay began quietly. Rural poverty lingered. Minority communities were largely excluded from post-war wealth. 1955 showed the limits of prosperity without equity. By 1955, the Cold War was no longer just military or political. It shaped education, entertainment, religion, science, language itself. Words like loyalty, freedom, and security carried ideological weight. America was no longer reacting to crisis. It was living inside one. Well, let's get into some segments here. Foreign policy and Cold War, we're still in a good position in this year. I mean, it's 55, we're still in a good position, so let's give it a B. Domestic leadership, I think Eisenhower had a reason for not stepping in to the segregation incident immediately. I think he really felt that states would work it out, but he did act decisively in 1956, which we'll see later. So I would still give domestic leadership with the people prospering. Again, not everybody, but boy, I'll tell you, growing up in the 50s was just a great time for teenagers. I'd give domestic leadership a B. Civil rights and civil liberties, you have to maybe a C minus. Economy and standards of living, A minus, again, for majority. These were good times. Crime and public safety, just about the same as 54. Let's give it a B. Cultural science and national mood. I'll tell you what. I mean, some of these crazy adults thought, Elvis Presley was terrible and all that. I mean, rock and roll, he brought rock and roll. It's here to stay. And it was a great time for teenagers. I give it a B plus. And the old fogies that didn't like Elvis, tough shit. Overall grade for 55. Let's give it a strong. How about a strong B? I think that's deserving. So, 1955 felt good. That was its danger. The Cold War seemed manageable. Prosperity seemed permanent. Segregation seemed containable. Nuclear weapons seemed deterrable. History would soon prove otherwise. But in 1955, America stood at a crossroads it didn't yet recognize. Calm on the surface, pressure below, moving confidently towards storms it hadn't been prepared to face. This is Larry Reidy. Larry Reidy's America's Journey to 250, celebrating 1955. 56 was still a good year for teenagers, but we'll get into that on the next episode. I want to thank everybody for listening. God bless you. God bless the United States of America, and I will talk to you on the next podcast.